We break down 10 offensive tackles the Chicago Bears might target in the NFL draft next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. Rate 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. PayPal. Day 2 of figuring out the draft and going through some draft profiles. Offensive tackles today. How are you feeling, my friend?
Doing good, Brad. Doing good. Yeah. We're preparing ourselves for this. We're gonna be recording a little bit because you're going on vacation, kind of. So it'll be exciting. And thankfully, Brad, this is we can trim this down and edit this video. But yeah, I've been doing good. I had my sardines, so it was a nice little meal between. I revamped the recipe where it's perfection. It's actually Gordon Ramsay. It's kind of a Gordon Ramsay recipe that he had. It's a quick little sardine and pasta, so it's really good.
You're trying to make sardines good. Like I've been around where this guy makes some sardines, and yeah, like it doesn't look as bad as it sounds, right? Like you make this sardine thing, and yeah, but
hey, sardine surprise is what I like to call it.
Any way that you get your stuff, the more power to you. But hey, like you said, so we are recording these back to back. Those on YouTube, you probably will notice we are wearing the same clothes for the next 3 shows. This is actually our first, but it's coming out next week. But yeah, let's get right into it though. We are going to be breaking down 5 early round offensive tackles that are kind of going day 1, day 2, and also 5 later round that obviously in day 3. And the big strategy behind this is just kind of looking at what could the Bears do, who's also going to be available. Obviously, we're not going to touch base on everybody, but the main people that you need to know and understand. So let's start with the early ones. Let's start with the ones that are fun because at the time of this recording, the Bears don't have an offensive tackle. So this is a key piece. Is there someone that can be at that right tackle or take Braxton Jones and move him over to the right tackle in place so that someone can be at the left tackle? But PayPal, it really does seem like the first 3 tackles, right? We have to break down these 3 tackles. Skoronski out of Northwestern, Paris Johnson out of Ohio State, and also Broderick Jones. I don't think enough people are talking about Broderick Jones, and we will break him down a little bit later, but I do think that he could be just kind of like a wild card that the Bears will be looking at due to some of his play styles. But PayPal, let's kick things off with who a lot of people see as the number 1 tackle in this draft. It's kind of debated between him and Johnson, but Peter Skoronski.
Yeah, I think this is Peter Skoronski, Jr. out of Northwestern. I think he's technically he was redshirted, so I think he's technically the age of a senior. But
COVID just messed everything up. Like as COVID, I put this together, there's so many people that are like, you're technically a senior, or you're like a COVID senior, but you're not a redshirt senior. Like, it's so weird.
I think he's like a junior, but he's like 24, 23. He's like still up there, 23 or something. And then you got guys that are like 25.
21.6 right now, actually. So he's actually a little younger. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So
he just looks like he's 24, 20. Yeah, he looks like an older guy.
Yeah, he plays like a veteran. He's a veteran in college, But yeah, this is the debate of like he's 6'4", 315. There's not many complaints about this guy, like technically, and his hands are perfect. His pass blocking efficiency is like 99.2%. The big thing that always kind of gets me kind of worried about this guy is like, is he a tackle or is he a guard?
Yeah.
Being 6'4", his arms, I think that it's like 32 inches long.
32 and a quarter. Yeah.
Yeah. 32 and a quarter. So they're not very long for a tackle. And that's something that worries me because we do need a tackle, and he there's like nothing else to really worry about this guy except for his size. And I think that's where people are debating, and we'll be talking about him later, is Paris Johnson, where it's
Yeah.
like he's the perfect like intangibles of, all right, he's like 6'6", he's got the perfect arm length, he's like the stereotypical tackle that you want. Well, Peter Skronsky, it's like, all right, is he going to be a guard? But hey, he's going to be amazing though, like when he does play, because he just is so smart, instinctual, and has really no downside. His feet's really good. He stays under his feet, like he always has them moving. And his hands, that's always a big thing translating to NFL. So he's
Yeah.
everything except for the height and the arm length.
Yeah, I agree with you there, where even like people see 6'4", and right now we have the RAS score up there where, yeah, that's 1.14. Like, but that on the out of 10, right? That's bad. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think people see 6'4" and think that that's big, because that is big, but not for an offensive tackle. You want them more at that 6'6". But also for those that were watching, you might have seen me grabbing my phone. I was pulling out just some arm length stats, PayPal, because I was kind of curious about this, because people are making a big stink about the 32 and a quarter, right? There's only one other starting tackle out there that has 32 and a quarter length
Hmm.
arms, and that's Braden Smith, right tackle for the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously pretty good, right? It's just the reason why it's a concern and is because it's an outlier, right? Anytime that you have something that's an outlier, it's going to be brought up. And I have seen people make the case. They're like, well, Joe Thomas had short arms. His were like 33 and a half. So
Mm.
it is different. Like, they are shorter, quote unquote, from the NFL standard, where NFL standard is like 34 and a half is really what they're kind of basing it off of. But yeah, it's shorter by like a lot of like short standards by at least an inch. Does that actually matter? Right. And the big reason why it's a big concern is because of the outside like the defensive ends with long arms, as we'll talk about in some other episodes. When they get the long arms on you, there is something. These guys are professionals. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the big concern. And my only concern too is like, yeah, if he is going to be a guard, are you really willing to take that top 9 pick or the top 10 pick? But like you said, he's just flawless from a execution perspective.
Yeah, I think I think we've talked about this before. It's like he's like the safe pick of,
Yeah,
he's gonna be
totally.
good. He's
He's
gonna be
gonna be good.
good. He's gonna be good, but he's just, you don't know if he's gonna be able to get to that next level where, I mean, we'll talk about Paris Johnson later, but or even Broderick Jones, of like these guys have more like potential, and even being younger, at least Broderick Jones, is like they have more potential, and that obviously brings more value um for someone. So I like Peter Skronsky. I wouldn't be mad if we got him.
Yeah,
And I guess for me, it kind of brings up the debate of like, do we kind of go for someone where it's like he would affect this team now? I think like he would fill in that spot
totally.
at the right tackle like easily. Like he'll but then say with these other guys like later on in the draft, it's like, will they be able to, they'll probably need a year or so to really take a full effect of like, all right, now I can actually take on like, you know, these NFL star players.
Yeah, so let's actually go on to the next person, Paris Johnson. Paris Johnson Jr. He just had his pro day, and when you see him out there, the guy's a tank. Out of Ohio State, junior, 6'6", 313. The NFL comp is kind of like a Brian O'Neill. He's his biggest strength, athletic. He's got a good frame. And a lot of people I see out there have Paris Johnson or Skoronski. They kind of flip-flop it. But honestly, Skoronski's biggest strength was his hands. Paris Johnson's biggest weakness is his hands. He allowed 2 sacks last year. He was formerly a guard at Ohio State, but don't let that fool you. This guy played guard because they had Petit Ferrer and Jones on the other side. So that's why he didn't get any snaps at tackle until Petit Ferrer ended up leaving. So he really has the body size of a tackle. And I think that he has tremendous upside, and you see the ferocity that he plays with. I think that this might be a bold take, but I just think that Paris Johnson, and we'll talk about Broderick Jones, I think that the Bears love the frame of the tackles, right? That's what Braxton Jones was. That's what a lot of the picks that they had were. I could see them looking at Paris Johnson, and I don't know if you saw on PayPal, there was someone was taking pictures of like Ryan Poles at the Ohio State Pro Day, and he's just staring at Johnson. You could tell
Really?
he's got some love in his eye. He's not as violent with his hands that as you'd like, but he's got all the physical traits that you want out of a tackle.
Yeah. And I don't want to say it, but I trust Poles. I mean, it'd be insane if he gets 2 for 2 for, tackles. Maybe, people would have to try to figure out his mind of how does he pick like great offensive linemen, or like what like traits do you really have to look out for? Like, is it a hands thing? Do you have to look at athleticism, or is it just a mentality thing?
To be fair, he didn't hit on Ja'Tyre. I mean, Ja'Tyre Carter's still on the team, but then Zach Thomas is not on the team. And I mean, Kramer was injured, but
yeah, I guess he was 1 for, like 2 for 4, 1 for 4.
Those were late round picks, right?
Yeah, they're like, yeah, you're not gonna hit anyways.
Yeah, I do, and I think that's just basically what Paris Johnson is just a good, more of like an upside player, like you were talking about PayPal. I think if we're looking at it, yeah, Skoronski, my money's on he's going to look the best out the gate, just like you were saying. But yeah, Johnson seems to have just that higher upside, and just with the bigger frame, could be something that Poles just wants. And the Ohio State connection, you always have to throw that in as well. But PayPal, let's go to kind of the third offensive lineman. The offensive tackle out of Georgia, Broderick Jones. I just realized I didn't update his little graphic, but he is in fact, out of Georgia, as people can see. Sophomore, 6'5", 311. PayPal, walk me through a little bit about him.
Yeah, I really like him. I think the first thing that kind of stands out about him, I mean, first of all, his potential. This is like, if we're talking about, we just went down the line of Skronski has at the least potential out of these guys. Obviously, he still has potential, being a young guy, whatever. But then Paris Johnson and then Broderick Jones, he's a sophomore. And the one thing I love about him is he has that mentality. Like it's kind of that Tevin Jenkins, like you'd see with Tevin Jenkins in his college career, even kind of translating to the NFL, of like, he just finishes plays. Like, he will push people out of bounds. He will stand up for his quarterback if someone, like hits him or, does anything to the quarterback. Like, he really protects the quarterback. And I love that, to just create, players like that create that, that mentality of like, it's kind of like, we have to protect this quarterback. Like, he is our, he's our treasure. He's our whatever. But he's still very productive. Like, it's not like he's bad or anything. He allowed 0 sacks and only 7 hurries last year at left tackle. That's where most of these guys seem to be left tackles, but I think that's a debate for another time. But he definitely could have benefited from, maybe taking another year, but that's where it's like, would you rather have another year learning at the college level, or do another year, get drafted early and learn at a, NFL level where you're going to be making money, or more money than NIL deals. So, it's funny. I really like Skronski, but now, I was just been thinking about it. It's like, I honestly like taking these two guys, Paris Johnson and Broderick Jones, if we do go kind of like that higher pick, for our 9th pick, of getting these guys that have a little bit more potential and more of a higher of ceiling.
Yeah, and I think Broderick Jones, I know at the Pro Day for Georgia, people were coming out of that saying he's going to be the first tackle off the board. Some NFL GMs and scouting really liked him. My feeling goes Bears, right? You talked about it. His mentality, his aggressiveness, the potential, right? Broderick Jones has the highest ceiling. He's played less than 2 seasons at the position, And in college, because of just like injuries and just not playing out there, he looks good. And the way that I also, because you talked about Skoronski, and it sounds like we're slandering Peter Skoronski on this. The way that I see it is almost like similar to the Roquan Smith draft, right? Where you had Roquan Smith, who was kind of the safe pick. He was the good player, and then you had Leighton Vander Esch, who was the person that seemingly had this good season, had good play, kind of like Paris Johnson, but he had kind of the higher ceiling, bigger frame. And then you had Tremaine Edmonds, who was the inexperienced player, 19 years old, and and just had this foreseeable like higher ceiling. And Roquan Smith was the best player that was drafted out of that, right? But also, do you make the case that, well, with tackle, is it more about traits than, say, linebacker? So that's where it's going to be interesting. And that's why I think it is important that we include Broderick Jones, because not a lot of people are talking about him, because I think a big reason is because PFF has him ranked 25th. But on others, it's like he's going in the teens. So it's not crazy to think someone going in the teens jumps up 4 spots, jumps up 5 spots into that number 9 pick. So it's going to be interesting for sure. But my favorite comp was Andrew Thomas, because Andrew Thomas looked bad out the gate, but now looks like one of the best tackles in the league. He just needed time, right? And I think that's what Broderick Jones is most likely going to be the worst tackle next year. And I think that's something that the Bears, if they are going tackle, needs to think about.
Yeah, and I guess, people that are listening, make sure if we do get Broderick Jones think about that. He needs some time if we do draft him. Be like, okay, we got this first rounder. He's going to be, our offensive line is fixed. No, he'll probably need some time, and before all the he's a bust accusations start coming out and stuff.
But I will say too, I do like our coaching. I think our coaching.
Oh yeah,
I have so much confidence because you see what the coaching was able to do on the offensive line last year. But yeah, also just a little quick stat, just pulling up the athletic scores, 1.67 10-yard split. That was a 9.93 grade on that out of 10. Like, that's phenomenal. Very good speed, 4.97 40 time. So a very good athlete, comparable to Tyron Smith. Like we said, the dude's an athlete. The guy can play, and he just needs a little bit of time. So let us know down in the comments who your favorite first rounder is. But let's say the Bears don't go first round, right? Like we said, we're doing 5 early rounds. So we have 2 people that are kind of going in the second round. The person who I'm actually not a huge fan, like not a big fan of this guy, but obviously it's the draft, so no one's exactly right. But Matthew Bergeron, Syracuse tackle, junior, 6'5", 318. The comp is kind of Marshall Newhouse. And yeah, this guy, no matter what mock draft you do, PFF, the football, I think like the football one, he's always going in the second round. No matter what he is the second round tackle. And that's why I think he's going to be available for the Bears. But what is he about, right? And when I see him on tape, it's balance. He plays very smooth. He's not tripping over his feet. When he's out in the running game, he's got good feet, and he just kind of plays, and he's well balanced. One thing too is that he's got a very steady mentality to him, which maybe might put the Bears off. Like, he doesn't have the fiery blocking that says like a Broderick Jones has. But his biggest weakness, though, overall, is his pass pro technique. And that's what kind of scares me with this. He's played left tackle. He's played right tackle. And to me, at the next level, I think he's going to be a swing tackle. I think he's going to be a good swing tackle, but I don't love it if he is your starter. And what I see is that even though that he's smooth when it comes to run blocking and kind of like easy going, sometimes if someone's trying to hit him with a speed move, he kind of gets a little kind of trips over some of his feet, and just it's really his hands in pass pro. He all of a sudden starts hugging him. And he starts hugging the player, and obviously will get called for a hold. But yeah, last year, 5 sacks, did only give up 3 hurries. So that is good. But yeah, giving up 5 sacks, not the best, but yeah, with this kind of calm, smooth demeanor, I just don't see him as someone that the Bears are really going to jump after.
Yeah, there's a big difference between sacks and hurries, where sacks, you're kind of like, they kind of blew the play. It's like you did a major mistake, where hurries, it's like, I was still there, I had it under control a little bit. So that's definitely something to look out for. And that's why, he's getting in the second. And that's where these second round and even these later guys, obviously we kind of hope for to fix this right tackle spot and drafting for, one of those top 3 guys we talked about. But hey, you never know. Like, if Jalen Carter falls to our spot, or if if we're eyeing up some other, Tyree Wilson, if he falls and that's someone that we really want, or, a cornerback, then who knows? An emphasis on the cornerback, not quarterback. Just anyone that's hard of hearing or something.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, like I definitely think we got to keep a lookout for these guys. And yeah, Matthew Bergeron, I'm not too crazy about him either. He's not one of those guys that I wouldn't be jumping on my seat like, oh my God, we got him. I would be kind of like, all right, he's gonna be good. The potential
How
scale,
good,
it's just how good is he? I don't know if he's really gonna get to that a crazy good level that we're hoping for.
So speaking of potential, though, if we flip it over, this person's projected to go in the second, or I've really been seeing him going in the third. But there's Jalen Duncan out of Maryland, senior, 6'6", 306, and he's got all the potential in the world. PayPal, what do you think about Jalen Duncan?
Yeah, he's got the upside. Yeah, he's 6'6", 300. Is that 300? Is that 336?
Yeah, our 6s and 8s on our graphics.
Yeah, if he's 386 pounds,
that's a 306. I'll tell you that.
A 306 for sure. But yeah, again, like we just talked about Bergeron, he let up 3 sacks, 7 hurries. This is where we're talking about the potential of this guy. He let up 7 sacks and 17 hurries in 2022. So, like, when you're talking about like his performance right now, he's not the best. This is a guy that we're gonna have to get better. He's only been at left tackle, so that's another thing to consider if we do draft this guy. Most likely, if we're kind of progressing him, or maybe, hey, if we're progressing him, maybe he stays at the left tackle just to keep him comfortable. But who knows? I mean, we thought Tevin Jenkins was the right tackle, then, and we were going to get rid of him, and then they magically just kind of moved him to right guard. Like, hey, he's actually pretty good. So who knows? Jalen Duncan might be better at right tackle. Who knows? But that's the thing. He's got the intangibles. He's got that big upsize, but basically everything just needs to be kind of tinkered and tattered with him, where he just has to learn. And honestly, no better spot than learning at the NFL level. But another thing is that he's a senior, so he doesn't have that time. And honestly, why I think he kind of, drops to the second or even third round, because he is a little bit older than these other guys, and has less time to develop.
I'll tell you though, like I think people visually can see my face with this. I do not like Jalen Duncan. Like,
yeah,
like the 7 sacks, 17 hurries. You have 4 years of experience, and like he's still making these mistakes. And the comp is DJ Humphries, because DJ Humphries always had a job because people loved his athleticism, loved his upside that he had. And yeah, like he balled out at the combine. And so we saw that. We saw the athleticism. We saw what he was able to do. But it's just like, if you don't have the production in college and you don't show it, like I don't buy it. He's so late to engage with his hands, and he just always seems like a tick late with things. So he's got the feet. Like his feet are great. But if someone cuts inside, he's a touch late to like get the hands on. So then it results in a sack. So that's where, I mean, he was at the Senior Bowl. So if the Bears see something out of him, it's going to be upside, but it's definitely going to be a project. But that's where to PayPal, like, I don't know about you, I was always like, I kind of want to see a corner, right? Like we were saying, I want to see a corner. I want to see,
Yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, who just ran like a 4.4,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
I want to see that. But when you start looking at these day 2 tackles, I'm just not a fan. This is just my take, and yet again, it's the draft, so I can be wrong with some of this stuff, but I don't like what I see out of these day 2 tackles as a
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah, that's where I feel like the emphasis on getting that day 1 is
Yeah.
huge because it is a big because I mean, we're just talking about corners and, you know, there's a lot more depth at corner where it's like, "Oh, we could get a later round nickel or we could get just a later round guy, that could do well," and it's like, they could have time to develop, where it's like, "Tackle, we need now," so kind of these projects, I think it's fine if we can see the upside already. Like, okay, like Paris Johnson and Broderick Jones are not terrible. Like they both like what up to 2 to 0 sacks, but then
Yeah.
these guys are not really. Yeah, they went up like 3, like 5, 7 sacks, and Jalen
Right.
Duncan. It's like
Or
if you're
none, yeah.
yeah, if you've been playing at left tackle for 4 years at the same position and you're a senior, you think probably his senior year should be that year of like, okay, like I've been here for 4 years.
I'm gonna do
Like,
something. I'm
yeah,
gonna do
I should
good.
do really good. I should have 0 sacks because I've been in this spot for 4 years.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like if you're a guy that's riding on potential, but then you don't see him learning and really getting better. Yeah, I'm not too high on him either, Brad.
Yeah, that's good. But yet again, like we'll
Who
see
knows?
what ends up happening. But let's move on to the later round prospects. That's 5 early. And for those watching and listening, going, what about the other ones? Um, Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma, DeJuan Jones, and also Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, all kind of project to go in that no Bears land where it's beginning of second round and late first round. But then also Cody Mouch, I didn't include. I like his tape out of North Dakota State. He just kind of projects more towards a guard, so that's where he might be on the guard episode rather than tackle. So didn't want to kind of throw him on this, but because he projects more so to that. Let's go to our later rounds, but just before that, you already know the drill. BetUS.com, America's favorite sports book. You can get 125% back on your first deposit. Just use promo code UNBEARABLE. If you want to bet on March Madness, it's the best spot to do so. Click the link down in the description. It helps out the show, and you can bet with America's favorite sports book. And if you want to get in the best shape of your life, I'm on vacation right now, as you guys are probably hearing this, and got to get in shape with some Transparent Labs, the best on the market. Reason why they're called Transparent Labs, they're transparent with what you put in your body. Make sure to click the link below and go get you some pre-workout or vitamins, whatever you need to get in the best shape of your life and get ready for the beach. That's the best way to go about it. But PayPal, this guy definitely has hit the Transparent Labs. Like when
Oh,
you
yeah.
watch this guy out here, this guy's got the thighs that are just like, this is where we get weird, where it's like, all right, you're looking at a dude's thighs and you're like, this guy's got some thick thighs. During the combine, I saw this guy, Tyler Steen, and you just see him and he looks different. He just had this gigantic, thick lower body, just powerful as all heck, right? And he's out of Alabama, senior, 6'6", 321. So he is a big boy. He's thick. Comp Vladimir Dukakis, projected to go in the 4th round. Biggest strength, he's got a lot of experience to his name. He's played over 3,000 snaps in college, has played primarily left tackle, but has played right tackle as well. But the big question is the length. And I think a lot of these later round prospects, like Steen, most likely going in the 4th round, a lot of these later tackles, it's really about the arms. It's about, even though he's 6'6", he's got shorter arms, and that's why these questions are coming up. But watching him in the combine, this guy looked fast. This guy looked quick. He really impressed me. And yes, it's the underwear Olympics, and he's an offensive lineman, but he's just been good throughout his career. Could be a good later round pick. But yeah, 32 3/4 inch arms, That's less than 10% of all tackles that are out there. So
Yeah.
he could be a good player, but what do you say?
Hey, yeah. Played for Alabama too. I think that's always something you kind of have to take into account of, okay, what school
Yeah.
did they go to? Played for Alabama, you know, did pretty good production wise. So um I think Alabama guys are always well coached, obviously. So um yeah, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and you know, he's got this experience, and we can see why he's from Alabama and stuff. So yeah, I'm excited. He could be good, and he's still a product, even though he has that experience. Like but at fourth round, I'm willing to take a risk of like a project rather, you know,
Yeah,
than
and
that second round when we were talking about.
I think this is a similar guy though too. Like, yeah, why not? If you take a flyer on him, I think he's going to be more of that, like that higher floor where he's going to be a backup, right? Or I feel like he's going
Yeah.
to be a backup. I don't think he has the ceiling to be a potential starter, um, by any means. Like last year, gave up 2 sacks and 19 hurries. So 19 hurries,
Mm,
decent amount. But also you talked about Bama. I also kind of flip it on the other side too. If Bama wasn't able to teach you to be like this great person,
yeah.
like how much more room for improvement do you have? And that's where I think he is. It's a rightful spot for him later on, but he could be a good scheme fit just with the quickness. But PayPal, let's keep going with another quick player. This is, I know, one of your favorites out
Oh
there.
yeah.
This guy, we talked a little bit about him during the mock draft. I think that the Bears might be eyeing him up if they don't get someone in the first round. That's Blake Freeland, tackle, senior out of BYU, 3'8", I mean 6'8", 302. PayPal, I know you like this guy.
Yeah, yeah. Great first name, obviously. But yeah, uh, first off, I love just it is a good fourth round is a nice time to pick a guy like a guy like this is because if you look at kind of do a mock draft, you can get some good edges, you can get like a nice D tackle, second round, and then this fourth round is a nice spot where it's like, okay, who can we get? It's like kind of like a corner or a tackle. But anyways, I love Blake Freeland. First of all, his combine was absolutely nuts.
It
What he's got the
was.
highest vertical, and also he's the fastest tackle, I believe, too, in NFL combine history. So you can see the graphic. He's compared to Lane Johnson, athletic wise.
Well, it wasn't as fast as Lane Johnson, as the
Yeah,
graphic says. Lane
yeah,
got
it
a
was
4.72, he got a 4.98, but still fast, right?
yeah, still super fast, but yeah, just very quick burst, quick lateral movement, and a really nice thing I like about him is he was the team captain for his team, and I think that just shows like the leadership and the maturity on this guy. I mean, he's not going to be a team captain because he doesn't know football, you know, and he can't lead a group of guys. So I think that just speaks to his personality, which is huge, like developmental wise, of getting a fourth rounder, you know. And we were just talking about, say, you know, if that guy Tyler Steen can't learn from Alabama, like then he's not going to
Yeah.
learn in the NFL. So like feeling like he's smart. So I another thing that so his big like negative about him is his physical strength. He actually, I'm pretty sure he opted out from the bench press. Out of everything, he did everything else except for bench
Yeah,
press.
yep.
Um and it was interesting. I didn't know this, Brad, but Orlando Brown Jr.,
Oh,
he
yeah.
I didn't realize he had like a terrible combine. Like he was supposed to be like a first rounder, and then
It
he
was
went to the combine.
horrific. Yeah.
Yeah, he just looked so slow. And then also he looked slow, but then also he got like 13 bench press. He
Yeah,
got
it
like a
was bad.
13 or something. And that kind of gives me the potential of like, okay, say this guy like Blake Freeland, doesn't have the biggest chest. He can't bench as much than all these other guys, like hitting like 30 and like high
Yeah.
30s, whatever. Like it seems not as a problem as it really should be. I mean, you're not as a tackle, you're not like a guard where it's like you're up and then you're pushing a guy right away, where you're using your chest more. You're kind of having arms extended where you're not using your chest as much. So from a physical standpoint, I feel like that doesn't worry me as other people do, because he's got everything else with like the size and the speed, and heck, he was still super efficient with 99.2% pass block efficiency in 2022 and 99.3 in 2021. So he's got everything except for people saying he just doesn't have the size or the strength.
I agree with the notion that he doesn't have strength. Like, I just saw him get pushed back a couple times, like in the run game. Like, that's my biggest fear is I think like when you see him, we're looking at like a Braxton Jones, right? Braxton Jones, the reason why that hit is it really checks every box, right? He had the length, so he had the frame, he had the size, he had the speed, he had the production, and and he was also a really good run blocker. The biggest question was small school, right? And I think for Blake Freeland, his biggest question is just that strength. But I also think a lot of people are kind of quote unquote down on him in their rankings because he is specific to an outside zone, which luckily we run, right? So with his speed, he should be a good scheme fit. And that's where he was out there at the Senior Bowl. And I think the Bears in the 4th round, if they don't get a tackle in the first, they definitely could be looking out for him. But like you said, yeah. And I'm looking too at his stats. He let up 1 sack in 2021, and that was it. Like for the last 3 years, he let up 0 sacks in 2022, 0 sacks in 2020.
Wow.
11 hurries in 2020. So there was that, but still, like, just great production for him overall. And
I don't think he did the best in the Senior Bowl, which I think too might have is kind of playing why he's still in the 4th, like, with the combine. And then if he also did well in the Senior Bowl, I think he might be up a little higher, but I don't think he performed as well as, people has hoped.
So speaking of the Senior Bowl, let's go to the next person. So this next guy, I just have him going day 3. Like that's kind of like my feeling. It's Nick Saldiveri out of Old Dominion. And what I mean about the Senior Bowl, this guy looked good in the Senior Bowl practices, but I watched the actual game. I didn't think he looked that great in the game. Sometimes people say don't put too much stock in the game. I am, because that's what I see, right? And this guy is 6'6", 318. Like I said, out of Old Dominion. This is someone who, when we talk about Braxton Jones, I think this guy kind of has, I'm not going to put him into the Braxton Jones caliber because I think more people were like in love with Braxton Jones. I think Saldiveri, though, has his own fan base where I see sometimes people are saying he's going in the 4th. Others are saying in the 7th. So he's going someday during day 3. I saw another person say they comp him to Connor Williams. So like I said, this is one of the people that had him in the hundreds, like Dave, like in the early day 3, saying they really like him. And the big thing is his pass blocking. Allowed 0 sacks last year, but I do have to call out 5 the year before. Really, last year was kind of his coming out party, if you will, at the tackle position. Before that, was always kind of seen as decent, but he's very physical at the point of attack. And also, one thing too is I think that just the biggest downside, right? You're talking about Old Dominion, but I think also just the overall polish to his game. Sometimes doesn't show great hands in the run or pass game. So it seems like he's still learning, and he just needs a good coach to kind of just make him a little bit better. But he does have a lot of the physical traits that you do want out of a tackle. And he was out at the Senior Bowl, which, as we know, the Bears do love that. Had a 9.44 overall grade for the RAS score, which is a very good production score. But this is also where, just going back to what we said about Skaronski, 33 and a quarter for Saldiveri, so an inch longer of arms. So it's not like he's perfect from a length perspective, but still a good prospect that you could get on day 3.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, and I do like. Yeah, I like the increase or decrease, whatever you want to say, in production of 0 sacks allowed where he had 5 before, where it really shows his development. Like we were talking about some of the guys before, where it's like, all right, you still haven't done that great, and you're still letting up sacks since your 4th year, So I always like seeing that.
Oh, cool. So we got 2 more for the late rounds. And then we will wrap this up. PayPal, we got Carter Warren, tackle out of Pittsburgh, senior, 6'5", 311. What can you tell me about Carter?
Yeah, hey, he's got some good things about him, but he's got a lot of bad things. So that's why he's kind of projected at these later rounds, but still like a nice prospect. Yeah, he's got the length, he's got the size. I mean, 6'5" is a little short for a tackle. But not 6'4".
Yeah.
But he's got the length, he's got a 7-foot wingspan. So that definitely helps in pass blocking, but having those long of arms, can kind of cause problems in the run blocking area. So that's kind of his negative. And yeah, and one of those things why he's kind of this 5th round, I think, is he's 24, so he's a little bit on the older side. And 2, he's coming off a major injury of his torn meniscus in 2022. So it's kind of all those negatives kind of bring up to why he's in this 5th round, but he's not a bad prospect. I mean, without that injury and being older, like you think talent wise, he would be a little bit higher up. But I think having negative in the run game personally doesn't worry me as much, even though we are a run heavy offense. I think we can teach our players how to run block. I think pass blocking is always the thing that scares me, of like, you really can't help someone too much in the pass blocking side of things. Like there's a lot more things going on in the pass blocking that's more the player's duty, rather when run blocking is like kind of the coach's, like, all right, do they scheme up the guy? Are they putting him in the right areas and stuff?
I feel this guy also is like, the biggest thing is he's a project, right? You're banking on the length. That's what you're really kind of going off of with this guy. And yeah, like a little older, like we were mentioning too. So yeah, I'm not in love with this guy in the 5th round. I would like to see a little bit more production out of him. And yeah, like you said about the meniscus, when you have someone coming off of that, it's a little bit scary. You just have to make sure that he's okay and he's ready to go. And that, yeah, can you coach someone up like that? And how much do you value arm length, right? How much do you value that length at that tackle position? But that's where too, and some people might be seeing this and going, why would we ever draft this guy? That's kind of what happens when you get later into the rounds. Because
oh yeah,
a lot of the people that you get, I was going through people and it's like, that guy's going to probably project to a guard. That guy's going to project to a guard. When you get later, it's really hard to find like true tackles and with the true length to play that position. Because regardless of how weird it sounds about the arm length, it is something that does legitimately happen. There is a reason why it is an outlier if someone does have shorter arms.
Yeah. You get like UFC, or they always talk about arm length, of like
yeah,
how big of an advantage. Yeah, the reach of boxing, whatever. Obviously, you're not trying to hit someone in the face, but you're trying to hit them in the chest. And it's like, if I'm sticking out my arm and you're not able to touch me while I can touch you, that's a huge deal. Yeah.
And so last guy that we'll cover, this guy, yeah, same thing. Doesn't have the proper length. This is Ryan Hayes, tackle out of Michigan, 6'6", senior, under 200 pounds at 396. The comp is Brady Christensen last year out of BYU. Similar type of build, right? He's got good technique, and this guy projects to go in the 5th or like 4th, 5th round type of thing. So maybe at the very top of the 5th round. This guy's good. Allowed 0 sacks last year. But yeah, the big question is really going to be that length. He's got shorter arms. His arms are 32.5 inch. So the same concept goes with him as it did for Peter Skoronski. But also too, with the lighter weight, with under 300 pounds, he does struggle against bull rush. But I will say, when watching his tape, he does have a little extra pop to him when he does hit somebody. He does project best to our zone scheme. So all these are pros, but the biggest question is, like if you keep getting popped, keep getting pushed back, I'd rather take a Blake Freeland because I like Blake Freeland's upside. But yeah, Ryan Hayes, he does have that a little bit of aggressiveness, but if you're under 300 pounds and you're aggressive, like that's not great in the NFL. So obviously hit the NFL weight room and hopefully bulk up a little bit more.
It's always hard to find that happy medium of too big or too small, because it's like, you talk about how NFL, like now, there's a lot more 3-4 defenses, I feel, or there's a lot more faster guys, where in the 3-4 defense, you see a lot more faster rushers. I mean, you think of the class last year, it's like a lot of these guys are, 240, they're not these huge rushers. So, or at least the guys that have been doing well. So it's like, maybe a guy lighter weight, trying to hype this guy up. Maybe a guy a little lighter weight would actually be pretty good for today's NFL. But
to that point, I think that's why you also see the zone running scheme working well, and why you also see like linebackers. I remember Roquan Smith, everyone was saying he's light. He's 230.
Oh, yeah.
Now you see all the linebackers, every linebacker out there is 220, 230. Like they're very lightweight because the speed of the game, like you were saying, it's getting faster, it's getting quicker. And that's where Ryan Hayes does kind of fit inside of that zone scheme. But yet again, this is why when we get to the later rounds, it's not like I can pull up someone and be like, this guy's got speed. This guy, like when you get later on, there's one, either like a big flag or multiple little flags. And that's where like his is definitely the length and the frame that he has. So,
hey, maybe if everyone's going fast, if everyone's going fast in the NFL, maybe we go the other way and get strength. So like, hey, DeJuan Jones, if we somehow get him,
he's slow DeJuan.
He's still in my thoughts, even though he's not on the slides.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people out there, and I'm just like scrolling through a couple people, but it's like Connor Galvin, he's 293, Braden Daniels 294. Like, we're going through people that are 300 pounds, but there's still a huge amount that are in those 300s. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something today, though. We went through 10. Let me know down below in the comments who your favorite offensive tackle is, early or later on. But yeah, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a